How does that translate your anger into action? I'm going to try and rush this. I'll put the PowerPoint slides up on the chat so it's more obvious. But the question is, what just told you what Gift of the Givers is doing, and clearly you know where to put some of your money. But the question is what we do. I spoke last night about all of us being influencers, right? And you have to ask yourself, as you just put it more bluntly, in our masajid, in our uruses, istimas, all of that, where's the activism? And it's up to you to go back and speak to the alims and the trustees and everyone else. Those people aren't shy to say, I'm from South Africa. Why are we shy? My son did an interview the other day in financial services, ironically for a Sharia compliant fund. And in preparation for interview, he looked up his interviewer. This is for a Sharia compliant fund. And that guy has got all of his LinkedIn profile, all his support for Israel. I looked at some of the doctors, Jewish doctors, etc., Christian Zionists. It's up on their profiles. I'm going to Israel. They're not shy. I don't know. We have to ask ourselves, why are we? We speak about our risk. It is determined. We had the ophthalmology conference and the boycott that we asked for. Shoaib Wali attended on behalf of the IMA. But I can tell you the turnout from the Johannesburg doctors was very poor. Reshma Badal is here. You can change the slides, Zakira, sorry. So there's 2 points I want to make. It's not a tafsir, but there's 2 words that stand out in that Quranic verse. Stand up firmly, stand out firmly. It's not a suggestion, it is a call to action. Next slide, Zakira. The next one though, Allah talks about not hating. So I want to be clear, we do not promote anti-Semitism, right? When we speak about the Jews in charge is also not promoting anti-Semitism. When we speak about mourning, we're not promoting hate against Hindus, etc., etc. But we have to be unapologetic, unequivocal, anti-Zionist. Clearly, when people walk into Cape Union Mart, and we can move on, Zakira, next slide. Sorry, eyesight's gone. So, it's self-evident what you can read there about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather preferring a just state run by other people than an unjust state, and it is clearly referring to what is going on in the Middle East. Next slide, please. Okay. So there is a slide from the South African Zionist Federation. Next one, right. So there are about 10 organizations, 10 different arms, Imtiaz spoke about this partly, dedicated to working Zionism in South Africa. And you can go look it up. I took this off their website, right? Over 10. That's just the Zionist Federation of South Africa, not Friends of Israel, not the Israeli ambassador, not everywhere else. And it's open, it's there. Next slide. A few more. Okay, this is the kind of work they're doing. They'll tell you there, 3,000-4,000 petitions they got to stop Leila Khalid, Sentence Drive been doing. They send letters to Discovery, they send members to their media, engaging the government. The kind of thing, like I said, I didn't have to speak after Imtiaz. But next slide. Just more examples of their networking and their advocacy. Next slide. I think there's more examples. I was going to talk to each one of them, but clearly there's no time. Next slide. Okay, these are the 2 letters, one to Discovery, one to Ophthalmology. So just to recap, we objected to the Ophthalmology Society bringing in the Zionist professor. And there were evidence that just how we did with Discovery, right? Or who brought in that organization linked to Israeli Defense Force. And they agreed to not bring the Zionist professor. Zionist Federation got in, lobbied, put pressure, etc. They brought the guy. Said IMA, I threatened them violence, etc. Organized security, made it a whole anti-Semitic issue. And this is the one I was referring to, and then we organized a little bit of a boycott outside the conference venue. But Muslims were not there to be seen, our doctors were not there to be seen, and I have to ask you why. The Yawar Beg, so when I used to do the radio interviews, he always used to say that du'as for the battle of Badr were not made in Medina. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say, right, boys, you'll go, I'll make dua from here. He mobilized, he organized whatever those 313 people were, whatever little armor they had, they went and they poisoned those wells, and the du'as were made on the battlefield. The equivalent of that is, where are we? Next slide. Okay, this was again more of the advocacy work. Next, this is Herzliya School, how they're organizing to send soldiers, the ones that you saw in the video. Next, okay, quick one. That is the Zionist Federation's annual budget. The ones that, I don't know how much is visible there, I can barely see my slides, but it's 20 million. That's the budget for the Zionist Federation of South Africa. You can zoom in, go to their website. 20 million per annum. Dedicated to promoting Israel, lobbying, undermining the likes of Imtiaz and everyone else. Then if you want to more, go to the Biz News podcast. It's virtually run by the DA and by Hershoff. And you will see they're openly advocating to undermine the president, to undermine the ANC. Now, Sheikh Asif spoke about the maqasid and the preservation of religion as one of the first priorities in their life and welfare, etc. You think they don't know that part of what Imtiaz spoke about that he's doing, reaching out, making sure government knows, you think they don't know that part of the support is also the fact that Muslims who anti-apartheid struggle, they know some of the relief work being done, etc., all of the various organizations. They don't only have to undermine the Palestinian struggle, they have to undermine the very essence of your religion, because you put two together, the narrative to, Muslims are anti-Zion, anti-Jewish, we promote terrorism, that narrative, I'm a fervent, I suppose, Liverpool supporter, and when this footballer Shane died, the amount of emotional outpouring and WhatsApp chats over, sadly, obviously, 2 footballers dying in a car accident. But this is the emotional attachment we have to Wimbledon today, all the sports, etc. We know numbers. When Jacob read out those numbers at the beginning, just today, a number of people killed, it's just numbers. But the emotional attachment is not there, and therefore the translation into our masjids, I've spoken about madrasas, art competitions, reviving the spirit, and clearly I'm running even more out of time now. But there's the budget for you, 20 million, that's just Zionist Federation. That is not the amount of money that's going A route, B route, C route to Israel and every other way. That is not, they're not telling you about the soldiers that they're sending, etc. Now, I'm often asked, what are we doing about the soldiers when they come back? Imtiaz has said it in a subtle way, but that's Imtiaz. What are we doing as an organization? So, my point being, okay, we carry on, next slide. Okay, again, Herzliya School, how they're organizing stuff for Israel. So the question is, the schools are not shy, but we're not even teaching this in our Muslim schools. We're not advocating, Miraj, that's the end of Palestine. So whether you have to go tell your ulama, whether you have to tell your madrasa and your APA teachers and your uras and your khankas, Allah commands you that stand up firmly for justice. It's not a nice to do. Next. Yeah. Sorry, okay, another one. Women Zionist Federation. Okay, carry on.
I think I'll just speak to this slide without my notes.
Okay, I'll try and look at that. Yeah. Okay, so silence and complicity. We spoke about normalization. Kravitz, who owns Kway, won awards for the most amount of money donated to Israel. Right? So when you walk into Kway and you buy Kway products, and there's a certain segment of our community that wholeheartedly supports Kway, I hope the message goes out for 40 days. And an effort and struggle is required for success in this province and another in the other province. But that silence is abdication of our responsibility. Next is Zakira. I know Muhammad Raymond is going to really take off with me. So in our homes, how much of us are spending time with our children, documentaries on the table, talking this, and then we expect consciousness to come. Setting the example in your homes about boycotts. Now I know that the whole debate, 50 products, 60 products, impossible to sustain. It's about sustainability. Clover is wholly owned Israeli company. Tiva Products is a wholly owned. And you just told you today who else to support, who not to support. Supply and Tiva. Supply is not Israeli owned, but they distribute Tiva, which is an Israeli owned company. But he just told you what Aspen is doing. So, right? When the reps come to you, I tell the Supply rep, I make sure we turn down 60,000 from Supply for the convention. Just to give you an example of walking the talk. Trade Union Mark, yeah, we know that, and then Coca-Cola. Next, sorry, Zakira, next please. Yes, we saw that, and we spoke to Ibrahim Asman. When we went for the council meeting, we saw Coke there. So, yeah, so, you know, consciousness, even the fasting programs, the Tarbiyah programs, not necessarily only about Gaza. We have become, you just said it more bluntly, we passive. This is not, we don't preach violence, our religion doesn't teach violence, but it doesn't tell you to just passively pray only. Now how do we translate this? You know, dua is the weapon of the believer. Every alim will tell us this on radio, news, but it's not only dua. Like I said, you've just been a bit more blunt than I would have liked to be, or can be. And he does it because he doesn't have to account to anyone. But it's the same thing. Ijtima, Urus, all of these programs. Why are they apolitical? And you're not asking them to take political sides. You're asking them to speak what the Quran commands. Your job is to now go back and ask these people to change it. And to change yourself. Next one. Okay, money doesn't need much explanation, especially not the first line. Imtiaz spoke about this. You cannot be apolitical and rely on the ANC and everyone else to do what you should be doing. I'm not saying you have to become a card carrying, but you have to be seen in these places. You have to be, and we have to donate money strategically. We have to take branch. I mean, for how much? The newer generation don't care about 50 years. Our own children don't remember what happened in apartheid. I mean, I'm in the township, right? And my room says all of these things. Young black kids don't want to know about Mandela. They don't want to know about Kodesa and all of this. What is it for today? And the Zionists work at this level. That 20 million rand you saw budget of this is gone to this level. Working the new generation. Even now, I'm sure you've seen it, if you listen to SAFM, etc. The younger generation are asking, you know, because what they're promoting is you're not getting trade because of the ICJ. You're losing AGOA and all the benefits of export because of the ICJ. Now, within the ANC too, they are being influenced. If Hamas is infiltrated and Hezbollah is infiltrated, you think ANC and EFF and everyone else, and who's funded that? MK isn't. So that has been, just said it, strategic. Next, okay, yeah. These events, where are we when these events taking place and why aren't we not here? How long are we going to say, okay, there's men and women mixing, is that the excuse? No one tells you not to stand on the side or anything else. Various excuses have been given for why people don't attend these marches. And none of them is honestly, really, truly acceptable. Yeah, we created WhatsApp, right? On WhatsApp, you will find all sorts of things. Translating it to action, we're a bit short on, right? Next, Zakira, please. So if this 83-year-old woman can risk, and she's not Muslim, but she's a person of conscience, and that's what Imtiaz, again, I didn't need to speak, as I said, Imtiaz said in a few minutes what I'm taking so long to say. If she can stand in the UK, right, and risk arrest and harassment and everything else, honestly, what excuse do any of us have? Just within our homes and masajid and everywhere else, before we go even further. Wonderful WhatsApp groups, you'll see, they post videos, these two young girls, other day on the rooftop of one of the arms manufacturers in UK getting arrested. In Ireland, it's common, over all these years, Ireland has been one of those countries boycotts of goods, demonstrations, in their football matches, singing. You'll see all of this, our people posting. And that's it. It's not translating into our own action. Next. Okay, so I've spoken to boycotts. This camp is another one. Yeah, like I said, you can't sustain 50. Pick 5, stick to it, make it sustainable. We spoke about Cape Union Mart. Yeah, next please. Yeah, Kravitz. Just a quick summary of all of the things Kravitz has this is the owner of Cape Union Mart. Next please. Here we are. So, clearly we need to collaborate. And by the way, Jakob, our chair today, is our IMA representative to FEMA, also our IMA representative in terms of relief and overseas projects. So he's the person to be seen, to know how you can get involved, what more we can do. And of course, he's also works with Gift of the Givers. Okay, the other things are what Imtiaz has spoken about, so I won't go through it and I'll post the slides. Imtiaz spoke about this collaboration, and I hinted about it last night, about getting into all of these other organizations, because you've seen it. Why is being silenced from SAMA, SANEF, the Editors Forum, and all those stats were read about who's killed? Because they are there to block the narrative. We have to reclaim that narrative. We left a space all these years. We need to fill those spaces again. And it comes to what Imtiaz has again said. You have to be available to take up those posts. We have become a nation of du'as, a community of dua. Honestly, if you really are honest about where we are. Yes, we post videos and clearly give some money for relief. This is nowhere near enough. The question is how to translate that into our youth to take risks. Are you the type of parent that there's a march, or are you going to tell your kids when you're going to visit, don't get involved, just go to Jamaat Khana and go to your classes, or you're going to encourage them to get involved with the little bit of risk that comes with it. Next. Yeah, of course, it's not, people are going to, as Imtiaz said, it's a wasteland. We're going to have people come here, their families to be supported, their medical students to be supported. It's not just going to end with the bunch that are here now. It's going to be a long time before Gaza is anywhere restored to self-reliance. So it's a long road ahead. You need to be prepared financially, in activism, etc. Now, between the doctors, lawyers, architects, those of us who have rooms, right, and people sit there 10, 15 minutes, just on average, even us, 20, 30 patients a day through your rooms by 2,000 doctors. There's over 100,000 people a day that sit in a room, doctor, lawyer, architect, whatever, for 10 or 15 minutes waiting, sometimes even longer, looking at the walls. Pamphlets pick up and throw. So I'm working with someone in one of Imtiaz's guys, to create a nice looking or nice portrait, and I'm not going to go down the discussion. Someone asked me what about the Murat, it's your choice. But to have these frames, picture says 1,000 words. For the vast majority of our population, you don't have to tell them about apartheid. Just remind them, this Hector, this. So we try to organize this. Is obviously, you can make a portrait out of it, you can make a frame out of it, in your rooms, just to remind people about the parallels between apartheid and what is going on now. It doesn't need long lectures or discussions from you. Just next, I'm almost done. So similar like this, right? Just 100,000 people a day throughout our rooms, looking at this and being reminded. No need to discuss anything. So this is something you can do. Put it up on your walls. And why are you being afraid? If you are afraid, but before I forget, how many of us Google the people we're referring to? When this OSA thing was going on, the Muslim ophthalmologist that I was working with gave me the list of four ophthalmologists that were in OSA pushing the Zionist line, and told me the number of GPs in Joburg that send patients to those ophthalmologists. Now, perhaps if there's no choice, but not just, this is what I tell the others as well on the other talks. How many of us now are going to take the trouble to first Google who we're doing business with? And if they're Zionists, There must be another alternative. If you say this is the only retinal specialist and there's nobody else, perhaps you can excuse it and say, okay, there's no other choice but to send my patient here. But if there is a choice, but how will you know unless you take the trouble to say, right, a Kravitz or whatever, I'm Googling this specialist and see, is he a Zionist? Do I still want to be sending my, and I don't mean race-wise, I mean anybody. If he's a Christian Zionist, if he's a Hindu Zionist, if he's a Muslim Zionist, if he's an Arab Zionist, how do we make those small changes? You know, when Lena spoke, I was telling myself, look, I'm sure all of us that have old bad habits are looking and saying, gosh, this is a lot of work to green our practices. And I'm sure she didn't use that cliche, a paradigm shift, but that's what it takes, right? If you're going to start adjusting how we do things. It really takes a mindset change. So does this. So does this, a mindset change. Money is plentiful. And just already told us that. Almost. Next Akira, please. So, yeah, like I said, we kind of spoke to this already. Next, yeah, this is important. Our goodwill is going to run out at some stage. Unfortunately, we don't have 500 Imtiaz Sulimans to carry on the political leverage and the goodwill. So we should be elections next year. There's social media, there's so much. Again, it's a cliche, it needs a mindset change. Okay, next. Yeah, so this is a very well-known quote. The other version of it, I think, is next slide. Yeah, this is the better version or the better version quote of what Edmund said, but I mean, it's exactly the same thing. Next one. Yeah, so this is what it is. Controversy and discomfort. It will make you uncomfortable, especially in your colleagues. The Zionists aren't shy to promote genocide. In South Africa, 45,000 Jewish people, the bulk of them probably are Zionists. There's obviously some very good ones, etc., that work with us, work with each other. But they're not shy. Why are we? Next. That is what it is. We have to occupy Zionism. You know, we haven't made life uncomfortable. I'm almost done here. We have not made life uncomfortable for the Zionists in our country. Their lives carry on absolutely normally, with no shame. Rabbi Goldstein goes to Israel, posts all his videos, goes to government, shows openly he's giving those soldiers and he's blessing them and he's doing everything. They're not shy. Why are we? Next. Okay, those are okay, no time I want to explain what these do, but rather look at it yourself. The Coalition for Good is the one I was referring to that Imtiaz has people working with. But the Words of Justice has a very nice, I'll just speak a minute on this. If you see a tweet now from someone, you can go to this website, put it in there, it will give you the retort to that tweet. Even if you don't have the knowledge, the website will do it for you, where you can reply to a Zionist. It's a very effective jihad tool, this. You can do social media, you can get your children, you can get your university students and everyone else to do this one. Vote for peace is what the Americans have done for the American politicians. In fact, I was something on talking to Imtiaz about, but we also want to talk, we're talking to some to IT people, it needs a bit of resources. We draw up the same list for South Africans. It's basically a summary of which politician has said what about Palestine or what about Israel. So the Americans do it all the time. They put it out, even now I saw a little chart, they're showing which are the most anti-Israel countries, the ones profile, so they know how to tackle where. This one does it for politicians, we can be doing the same thing for prominent businessmen, prominent politicians in our life. Obviously, there's more to discuss, but perhaps at another forum, inshallah. Jazakallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.